get started. I appreciate everybody, man, for waking up. It is a beautiful thing to see people and open up and say good morning. Every day I like to wake up and say, first of all, we are grateful and just blessed to be able to trade, able to wake up and have good health. And I'm gonna get started. One of the things that I was talking about, the analogies with life and trading, is so uh, intertwined. I like to say that trading is life, and it's a good analogy because one of the things about life is that we constantly adapting. You know, um, you know, to be able to adapt, you adapt every day and every year, every week of your life. You getting older, you grow. You face new challenges. Um, just with the simple fact of getting older, right? You ain't the same person you were at 20 as you are at 30. You're not the same person on 30 as 40. You're constantly growing, and this is one thing about the market is that we are constantly adapting to the market, and um, in performance and in life. I tell people, man, you can't call a timeout, right? There's not really an opportunity for you to say, hold on, let me call a timeout, let me let me get back into the life after I take a little break. You're constantly living, whether you take the rest or sit sideline, you're constantly living a life. And it's the same as trading. We're constantly making trades, in life. And you know, I, one of the things about trading and having a mastermind or group is you'll see, people with challenges and they'll try to, move around and go into new environments, right? And I think sometimes we confuse motion with progress. Just because you move around don't mean you're making progress. It's the same way that, you know, uh, a person picks up and moves to a different location, right? And it lives somewhere else. It may not be the place in the environment. It may be internal, right? The thing that you're trying to find, needs to be fixed inside. And so just because you make moves, you have emotion, don't mean you're making progress. And this is also, analogy of, having a strategy and then abandoning a strategy after a few losses or, jumping from one group to the next, chasing the next indicator, right? The whole time they feel like they're working towards something, but they really are not. They're kind of like running on a treadmill because the issue that they're trying to uncover, they take it with them, right? And it is same thing you see in relationships. Like, oh man, I'm gonna get a new relationship. This one is not working, etc. And it was the, hoping that someone else deals with the same issues that you were unable to identify. And so some people just get used to the experience. They want to have a new experience addiction, right? Same thing with having a new strategy, a new indicator. Um, it's not that the one that you have don't work. It is that maybe you just used to having new toys to play with, and that is the experience addiction. Um, the reward for starting something new, right? Over doing the required work, the unglamorous work of achieving mastery, right? I think achieving mastery is not as fun after the newness works out. As I was as a kid, I watched Karate Kid, and when he's telling them wax on, wax off, and yeah, I'm doing that every day on a card. And he's like, man, I want to fight. I want to go do something different. This is not fun. And sometimes, the trading, waiting and being disciplined, uh, and and you know, uh, taking being smart, right? That is sometimes the mastery that isn't fun for people, right? Um, and when you chase the feeling to have something new, you're basically running on treadmill, paying tuition over and over again without ever graduating. And this is the part where, as a trader, the graduation is making steps, right? Creating progress that, expands your experience. Like even in trading, just going through a full year, right? Journaling every month, right? That is actually mastery because the seasons change every every month, every week. There's a different, I guess, personality, and some people never get to experience a full year of trading, right? Throughout the year, they drop out and they miss. The person that shuts down the computer in February, they miss the entire experience, right? They miss the entire experience of trading a full 12 months, right? And so this would help you with execution, right? And so it's not just the experience, it is the execution, right? How deep you can get, how much you can experience, right? It's just almost like reading about a relationship. If you read about a relationship long enough and say, hey, I'll become a relationship expert, you really have to participate in the relationship. You really have to be in love, right? You have to experience the love to actually understand that, the ups and downs, um, that's required to really get the mastery. So, you know, um, going through and exposing um, the the mindset and the machinery that keeps a trader trapped, right? A lot of times it's the dopamine loop, right? It is the ego protection, right? When you move somewhere else new, you can be a totally new person, right? When you go to a new group, you get the experience of, being new, and the experience of mastering. It takes hard work, it takes dedication, and so forced adaptation, right? That is something that life requires, right? We know that we're gonna get older. We know that we, get married, you buy houses, you have kids, right? Sometimes life requires you to, it forces you to adapt, right? And the longer you embrace it, the longer you say, "Hey, man, I'm in for the long world, the long haul," the more you know you basically adapt and get comfortable with doing the hard things. And so, a trader who masters one path always outperforms the trader who samples 10. It's the same principle besides the quality of your entire life, not just your P&L, right? We all hear about the millionaire person that saves and invests in 401ks and, does something consistently over a period of time, right? At the end, they win by being committed. And so, the market is life and it's accelerated. Life is accelerated. You just don't imagine how fast 5 years, 10 years, 15 years go by, right? And, when we talk about the trading and new experiences, right? No guru tells you, uh, you do not choose to adapt, you are forced to, right? The market forces you to be patient. Kids forces you to be patient, right? Having kids forces you to be responsible, right? Manage your own money forces you to be responsible, right? Life, the market, the external, it doesn't ask for permission to be the market or to be life, right? It had, life itself handles you job loss, a death, child, diagnosis and health, divorces, right? Market that turns against you, turns against your entire thesis, right? And then it watches what you do. The same way life, right? Even, you can say God, you can say, it throws things at you and it watches what you do, right? And you either adapt a new way of being or or you are removed from the game, right? You get taken off the board, right? And that's what I see when I look at a person that walks away, or they're basically playing this game. They get taken off the board. They don't get to play anymore, right? So market is simply life with the timeline compressed, right? Every day that we're in the market, is almost like an analogy. I don't want to, the market take me off the board, right? And this, sometimes it teaches you a long time to learn the real world, right? When I was a kid, I mean, man, I'd never do this, I'd never do that, or I don't want kids, or we know that life changes. We know that our desires changes. We know that we are sometimes forced to adapt. So the trader who learns to meet forced change with expansion instead of escape is building the most transferable skill a human can own, right? All humans have been forced to adapt, right? And so being inside a mastermind, or hearing this message and saying that, when things require you to change, right, we're going to expand. We're going to get better. We're going to get bigger instead of trying to escape it, right? And this is, one of the reasons why I believe trading, and the mindset, is actually an upgrade, right? It is able to upgrade your business, is able to upgrade your relationship, your health, right? Your capacity to sit inside of discomfort without flinching. This is what happens when we get drawdowns. This is what happens when the market shakes us up and throws a left hook and a right hook, right? And we ducking and bobbing, and sometimes we still get hit, right? We still take a loss even after we've done everything right, and that is also life, right? You can do everything right, you can be eating healthy, and you still can get hit with the, hey, you got this new diagnosis that you need to fix. It's not a wrong thing. It's not a, man, why did this happen to me? That's just life. So it forces you to adapt, right? Um, Force expansion, right? And then the refusal, right? The experience, I'm gonna get a new experience. I'm just gonna run, right? That's a refusal to adapt, right? You're supposed to expand through discomfort, right? The addict escapes into a novelty, right? When shit gets hard for a drug addict, right? They run back to the drug, right? They want to escape the reality, right? And when things get hard for certain traders, or certain people, they want to escape to a new group, a new relationship, get a fresh start, right? Because it feels like growth, right? But it's really surrender. And so, you know, the more capacity you have to hold a position through fear, you're saying that the pressure is not going to break you, right? You're going to expand the container. You're not going to shrink. So, sometimes having a drawdown, being in a bad market, it's not the punishment. It is the curriculum of life, right? And it's trying to teach you something. And, all of us here is not, you know, uh, shielded from this. And this is what I've learned, in my years of living, is that no matter how much you want to shield yourself from life, it's gonna happen. Right? And it's gonna make you adapt, and it should make you get better. Right. And so, as a trader, experiences more and more the market, right? You're gonna be able to handle the losses, right? And you're gonna be able to hold things and have a drawdown, and right, and you're gonna suddenly become, um, you're gonna be able to maintain your composure, right? And so, the goal is not to quit or to experience something new, or it is actually to say that, hey, I'm in it for long term because I know it's making me better, right? If you build a nervous system, if you get nervous every time the market moves, or something happens in the charts, right? The same nervous system is what you take everywhere else. You take it to the dinner table, you take it to the gym, you take it to the boardroom, you take it to the bedroom. All right. You take that same nervous system everywhere. It's inside you, right? The same emotional losses that if you had a big loss, right? It doesn't matter if you in this group, go to another group, you taking that same emotional loss. It don't change your mindset. So, we're training capacity for change. And the capacity is a real definition of a high quality life. If no matter what happens in life, I'm still gonna live it. And I'm gonna live it up and I'm gonna make the best of it. Right. I'm gonna take that attitude everywhere. Right. And so, for me, I want to install the mindset where everybody is in the mastermind. Because there is a training that goes on in the mastermind without being said, right? The thinking different, being different, right? Understanding that it's already in us, right? It's nothing I can go get from somewhere else that's not already in me, right? And so it's nothing I can give you that's not already in you. Only can bring it out of you, right? And understanding this is that I like everybody on this call to know that you have some special qualities, and sometimes that is a reminder that people don't get, right? It's not the group that makes you special. It's not XYZ. The group just shares and they say you have value. There is something special about you, right? There is a quality that even you asking questions and having anxiety, right? I tell my wife, man, that's a super gift, right? Her anxiety is a super gift to a person like me that sometimes don't care about nothing, right? I'll go to a new place and not pack and just say, man, we're gonna wing it, right? And the person that's worried about everything and overthinking, right? Sometimes that becomes it's a super quality, right? So you can have anxiety and still win in the market, right? And I'm just taking that because some people say it's negative, but in reality, right? Shit, you could be on a spectrum, and that makes you special. So, um, you know, you have some time, I had some talking points that I put in here. It's like, man, when was the last time you was forced to change and you ran instead of grew, right? There's a lot of things that we can look back at our life and we can be like, man, I ran instead of, you know, um, you know, sticking it through, right? And so the novelty of newness, right? Just because you join something new can feel like winning sometimes, right? Using a new strategy, it's not a character flaw, it's wiring, right? Sometimes your brain rewards in dopamine, right? You get a good feeling. You get some chemical of pleasure when something is new, right? And it's a chemical of anticipation and pursuit that is firing when you expect a reward, but not when you receive one, right? Surviving, like even if you survive a February or a September in trading, right? That's actually the reward. It's like, man, you make it through some difficult months in trading and you are profitable, or you make it through some tough times that it kicks people out, right? Of course, I talk to people in the mastermind and stuff they go through, right? And I basically was telling someone yesterday, it's like, man, you have a superpower, right? Imagine, some of the traders on this call right now that, have family responsibilities, that have kids, that's taking them to practice and, maybe they're the main breadwinner. They helping out the family relatives. They're going through their own health issues. They are, uh, you know, working a job and they're trading. It's like, man, you're doing all this when other people are giving up. You're actually a super trader. You're actually special, right? Because the amount that you are putting up with and waking up early and going to bed, sleep, like nobody has told you that you're doing Superman shit. superwoman stuff. Right? And that sometimes is an accomplishment that they don't acknowledge, right? And yeah, it's hard. And life doesn't just present you the easy road, right? And having being able to say, hey, I'm gonna stick it through. And I don't need the shiny object. I don't have the shiny object syndrome. I know that there's a compulsion to pursue something new at the expense of the committed, right? And so, when I talked to like Barry Parker, for example, and he said, "Man, I can see the beauty in the trade, right? Even though I'm gonna have to go through some ups and downs, right? I'd be like, man, that's a great friend to have, right? To see the beauty in things, even when everybody else thinks it's ugly, right? And so, um, I like new trades. I like new momentum, right? I like to take I do get a dopamine rush. I do like to take new trades, right? But I'm committed to the skill of trading, right? And I'm open to new information. But, um, the dopamine spike and the false sense of progress of using something new, right? It's the results, right? And you don't want to get yourself rewarded for taking something new all the time, for quitting and restarting, right? Because the boring grind can creates the competence, right? The fresh start, right? Human feels a surge of motivation and temporary landmarks. A new year, a new month, a new birthday, a new moment, right? Right. If they didn't think they had the greatest year, oh, I can't wait to the new year. Oh man, I hope this new year is gonna be my birthday is gonna be better, right? And they're not really changing anything inside, right? And that becomes a crutch, right? Leaving a failed strategy, getting a fresh new start, right? It's providing relief from the pain of the present failure. And it lets the ego project a perfect future, right? And I said it, when I'll see a person and they're like, man, I'm gonna go over and try XYZ. And it's like, man, can't nothing compete with your with your mind, your imagination, right? Even starting a new relationship. People be in relationships and they'll go, oh man, if I go and I get a new relationship, they're gonna appreciate me, they're gonna do XYZ. It's like, man, nothing can compete with your imagination, right? Because the same issues you have in this relationship, you're gonna take to the next one, right? And maybe it's gonna be a little bit uncovered, and maybe they'll deal with it a little bit better. But eventually, you're gonna have a new challenge and a new problem that you're gonna have to address. All right. And so, the valley of despair. I'm gonna skip this one. Yeah, it's it talks about the slope of enlightenment, right? And the experienced addicts, the people that just want new experiences, it interrupts the pain and the proof that something inside is broken, right? And so, you know, it's a toll booth to mastery. Um, when you go through these slopes, right? And this is, the cost of life, right? In life, we're gonna have ups and downs, and and that's the cost of living, right? We see the prices go up and down. We buy gas and it goes up and down. That's just the cost of driving, right? And it is what it is, right? Inside the community, right? In any community, it starts to feel like low status, right? The ego deploys a defense called individual mobility, right? I need to leave one group to join a higher status, right? And it makes them feel better without changing a single thing about the execution, right? And so when you externalize blame, right? Leaving lets you blame something else, right? Yeah, that's what happens in relationships, right? People struggle in relationships and then they can leave and blame the other person, right? Knowing that it takes two to tangle, right? And your own execution has to improve, right? You know you lose content, right? Belonging sometimes becomes a skill, right? Some people just want to have a honeymoon. They don't want to have a full relationship, right? In trading, a lot of people want to have a honeymoon. They don't want to have a full relationship. So, when you have a really truly toxic environment, of course, leaving is healthy, right? But also hopping through different relationships is also toxic. It's also self-sabotage, right? Because it's just tests. And you don't leave because, if it's truly a broken environment, or or you leave because it's uncomfortable being the one that's currently losing, right? One reason to leave is wisdom. The other is ego buying time, right? And sometimes we get different data points. So this is what it looks like when you start something new. Greater attention over time. When you first start, you're 100% all excited. You are in. You're saying, "Man, this is great." And then the month one, damn, the excitement is over. The attention, and now it's like, "Oh man, do I have attention?" 60% of the time, right? By year two, right after the months, now it's the trader attention is down to 13%, right? And then year five, it's 5%, right? And this is how it filters out traders over the years. And so when I tell guys that trading is a lifestyle, right? If you can keep the excitement and you can keep the edge up, like when you first started, right? It's the same thing in a relationship. If you can keep the excitement up in a relationship, right? The year two and year five is drastically different. And that is especially true for traders. So, to create a lifestyle um, out of trading, right? If I can stand a mastermind and be excited and love the mastermind, right? And that's why I say the mastermind helps me because, after 5 years, 6, 7 years, I'm still excited about doing it, right? And, oh man, time is coming, right? Buy and hold, and holding and having a longer term um, visualization, right? They say real retail traders realize wins 1.5 times more often than losses, but they cut winners short for a small dopamine hit. So they're saying that even everybody on this call actually wins more than you lose, but taking the dopamine hit is dismantling the overall P&L, right? Because a lot of your runners will run a lot more staying in the trade for a little bit longer, right? And so I'll go over this on another call, but this is, the trader profitability funnel, right? Over, 100 traders who start 20 survive year 1 through 7 and remain active 5 through 3, right? And, over 3+ years in the mastermind, we actually see traders get better. The longer they stay, because we know that, the people that stay 3 years, they're going to be way more profitable in the mastermind, right? Because it becomes not just a dopamine hit. They've already went through the freshness, the newness, all that other excitement. Now their skill curve is actually going up, right? And that's what we see with long-term traders inside the mastermind. Your skill level actually goes up the longer you stay in a place, right? The people that make it 7 years in a relationship, they normally make it 15 years. People that break up, they normally break up in 7 years, right? And so, of course, you still got marriages that fail at 20 years and 16 years. We wake up and be like, man, I don't want to do it anymore, right? And that's the excitement. It's gone, right? And so, patience is a discipline that pays. Um, and if you can have that break, uh, the patience create the position, right? And that is what we'll see is the longer you can stick around, have the patience, and you have discipline that creates the freedom of the retest, right? And the confirmation. Price has shown it can stay now, and only now you move with conviction. momentum carries the position, right? And so this is kind of how I take a momentum trade and end up in a swing trade, right? I have to have some patience. All right. So, and this is just a decoration card. I'm not a hopper. I'm an operator who finishes what I start. The drawdown is my curriculum. I do not run from my teacher. I do not run from the market. Excitement is chemistry. Boredom is where my edge is built, right? I'm my own execution. The room is never the reason I lose, right? The break is not the trade. I wait for the close that confirms it. I'm forced to adapt. I choose to expand, not to escape, right? I'm never going to run from life, and I'm never going to let a hard time humble me. All right. And on that note, I'm going to give you guys your morning back. I'm going to share this, and we'll expand on this. We may have to expand. All right. On that note, I hope you guys got a couple of jewels off of this call and just the philosophy of trading and being in relationships and sticking it through. I think it's a beneficial mindset to have when you know I'm in it. Right. This is a lifestyle for some of us, and some of it is just a dopamine hit. But I'm here for the long term if you're here with me. On that note, I see you guys on the inside. All right. Peace out.